So I want to tell you what I wanted to talk about tonight. I wanted to give a message focused on the Torah portion. It's a double portion this week, the last from the book of Leviticus. We have recently read the Holiness Code. I would have liked to talk about how the portion relays that God instructs Moses to tell the Israelites that in every seventh year the land shall observe a Sabbath of complete rest. Fields should not be sown and vines should not be pruned. I would have liked to teach about how after 49 years, a jubilee year is to be celebrated when all the land that had been sold during that time should be returned to its original owners and slaves are all to be set free. I thought it might be interesting to connect these opening sections of text about the land resting every 7 years and having a jubilee year after 7 cycles of 7 to the detail that God instructs Moses to tell the Israelites not to make idols or venerate the sanctuary of the Eternal. I considered talking about the both inspiring and problematic verses of chapter 26 when God promises blessings to the children of Israel if they follow the law and warns about the curses that will befall the people if they do not observe God's commandments. But I cannot talk about those things tonight. Not this Shabbat. Not in the way I would have liked to. No, on this Shabbat, I must talk about pain and tragedy, loss, terrorism, anti-Semitism, and anti-Zionism. I must talk about the murder of 2 young, smart, hopeful, optimistic people who loved Israel and one another and sought to support Israel and ease the tension and suffering of all people in the region through their work with the Israeli embassy. On this Shabbat, I must talk about Sarah Milgrim and Yaron Lischinsky, hopeful, beautiful people who were targeted and murdered because a radicalized terrorist wanted to kill Jews, and he went to a Jewish place to find Jews to kill. It is haunting. It is horrific, vile, scary, and devastating. I wish I could use the word unimaginable, but it is not. It is not unimaginable. We mustn't imagine anything because this is now our reality. Over and over and over again, Jews looking to learn or worship or celebrate or simply gather have become targets. And the vitriol of anti-Jewish hate is louder, more pervasive, and just plain old more acceptable to the masses. Some call it free speech. Some call it anti-Zionism. It is, without question, Jewish hate speech, and it is paving a toxic road that welcomes more and more people to find their way to the insidious anti-Semitism that is now expressed in full voice, unabashedly, for all to see and hear. And be sure of this, it is contagious. I say this as a realist. I've always known that anti-Semitism is real and present, even in communities where Jewish people say they feel very safe and comfortable and part of the larger society. Even in my lived 50 years of never having experienced a personalized expression of anti-Semitism, what seems relatively new, though, is how people full of hate are saying the part they used to speak only in whispers or under their breath in close circles of sick camaraderie. That quiet part is now said out loud, cheered on by endless social media posts, internet trolls, and media depictions of encampments and protests suggesting a validity of two-sidedness. Phrases and excuses like, it's complicated, nuanced, or you just don't understand, often attempt to blur and confuse the matter. This point, though, is crystal clear. Killing Jewish people because they are Jews is anti-Semitism and will do nothing good to help Palestinian people and Gazans live better, healthier, more free, or more prosperous lives. On this Friday evening, as we ache and feel angry and are racked with worry and maybe disillusionment, when it seems like there's not a lot we can do, and yet so much going on around us, we find wisdom and comfort from the words of our ancient text. When we yearn to fix, to solve, to make sense of the most terrible and tragic events, the words of Torah remind us we must pause. We must take Shabbat, a complete cessation from our work. And protecting Shabbat, keeping Shabbat, observing Shabbat is so paramount that every 7 years we observe a Sabbath for the land also. Our Torah tells us again and again to stop on Shabbat, to re-soul, to discontinue our work and reconnect with family, with faith, and with God. No, celebrating Shabbat will not solve anti-Semitism. No, celebrating Shabbat will not bring Sarah and Yaron back or get the hostages home. No, celebrating Shabbat won't end the protests and hate speech that has become so prevalent in our world. But celebrating Shabbat can soothe our tired and scared souls. Celebrating Shabbat can reconnect us with being instead of doing. Celebrating Shabbat can replenish and refuel us for what can feel like the harrowing role and responsibility of being openly, proudly, and enthusiastically Jewish in this world. At the conclusion of tonight's service, before we make our way out of temple and into Shabbat, we will sing the traditional song, Shalom Aleichem. I wanted to share what writer Sarah Tuttle-Singer posted from Jerusalem just hours ago, framed around these familiar traditional Shabbat words. Shalom Aleichem, Malchei HaShalom, peace be upon you, angels of peace. I used to sing this song without thinking, a melody you learn by heart before you even know what it means. But now it catches in my throat. Because what kind of angels let this happen? What kind of peace arrives to a city trembling on the edge again? And yet, Boachem l'shalom, come in peace. I set the table anyway, not out of faith, but out of defiance. Not because I feel holy, but because I need to feel whole, even for a moment, even if it's pretend. I pour wine, I fold napkins the way my mother did, as if I'm folding prayers into them. I think of the other mothers who won't cook tonight, the fathers who are sitting beside empty beds, the hostages who are not home, the lovers who parted without goodbye. And still, the words rise, Seitchem l'shalom, go in peace, messengers of peace. Maybe that's what Shabbat is. Not an escape, not a cure, but a container, a frame around the chaos, a breath between the screams. Tonight, we will sing, maybe off key, maybe with tears, maybe by rote, maybe by heart. But we will sing. And when we do, we'll summon something ancient, not to fix us, but to remind us. Because even shattering hearts deserve peace. Even salt-stung hands can serve a sacred meal. And even if I no longer believe in angels, I still leave the door open, just in case. Amen.